are listening to the SuccessibleSHE podcast, episode 21, How to Go from Survivor to Thriver Using Comedy as a Unifier, Healing Your Past and Finding the Funny Along the Way, with inspirational comic, author, and speaker, Quinn Alexander Fontaine. Hello, 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 Successible Ones. Dorothy Kuhn here, and welcome back to another episode of the SuccessibleSHE podcast, the success podcast for women on your way to transforming yourself, your business, your work, your situation, your life. From stewing, shouting, shrinking, shunning, into success that shows up as respect in your life, appreciation in your life, money and time, so that you can enjoy the future you want with the confidence, respect, and fun that is your birthright in quite nearly every moment, even the tough ones. With us today is the amazing Quinn Fontaine, inspirational comic, writer, speaker, and we met in 2017 at the International Women's Economic Forum in Albuquerque, New Mexico, here in the U.S., spearheaded by another amazing friend, Gertrude Mache Kaniki. Quinn, even more has changed since then. Spill.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Dorothy. What a thrill. And you're brighter than ever. You're such a bright light anyway. What's changed? I have a few more sprouts. I think when we met, I was 2 years into my transition, female to male. And now I'm almost 6 years into it. And I am more embodied, more in alignment, mind, body, spirit than ever. Mm-hmm. And still knowing that there's more to be done. But I've never been so comfortable in my body temple.
And there is nothing like being fully within that body temple. And I know that transition because I went through that too, not from a gender perspective, but from being, I had a very long and gaslighting marriage. And, just one emotional hit after the other will do that to you. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that will make you not live in your body because it's miserable.
Yeah. And I also come from a background of trauma. I had pre-verbal childhood sexual abuse as a baby at the hands of my dad. So for me, it was double whammy. It didn't feel safe to be in my body for many reasons. So it's a lot of years of trauma healing, a lot of years of embodiment work, breath work. So to be 52 now and know I'm right on time, I'm right on time. And if anybody's out there struggling with that, thinking it's too late, it's never too late. That's one of my favorite little mottos is it's never too late to be your authentic self, whatever that means. And for some people, it really just means finding out what their passion is, Yeah.
Yeah. Because everything in life kind of pushes us to do well in school and all that kind of stuff. And that's useful, but it doesn't tell you, what's pulling you forward, what you're here to do.
Right. And getting out of that surviving mode and moving yourself into thriving.
Yes. So going from kind of a little higher. Go ahead.
Yeah. From going from survivor to thriver.
Yes.
And we all get to thrive in our lives, and we need it now more than ever. We need people to be passionate about what they're doing and knowing that their unique gifts and talents need to come through them, because if they aren't shared, the world doesn't get them.
That's right. Yeah. That is exactly right. And we're put here for a reason.
I agree.
So we may as well make the best of it. And there is nothing like a challenge to, diamonds are created in huge pressure underground. Steel is forged in the heat of steel mills. It's amazing. The most powerful elements in the world don't come by lightly. They really are quite, and we're part of this same universe where all those things are true. So what led you to do? I mean, you're a wonderful comic.
Thank you.
And I watched one of his shows last night. It's recorded. I'll put it in the show notes. It's so good.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I know how busy you are. I found comedy early on. I became the class clown early on. I grew up in rural Virginia in the 70s and 80s. And I already knew, and this is my vernacular, I knew I was a boy in the wrong body who liked girls. It's a whole other department in my life of double whammy. The state motto in Virginia, where I grew up, is Virginia is for lovers. I was keenly aware that did not mean me. And the word transgender didn't even exist yet when I was little. It didn't exist yet. So the minute I found funny, and the minute I realized I could make other kids laugh, and they weren't laughing at me, they were laughing with what I was creating.
Mm-hmm.
It was, not only did I feel a little powerful, I felt safe. And so for years, comedy was a safety mechanism for me, a defense mechanism. And now I use it. I never really used it to put people down. I always use comedy as a unifier. I love that comedy can bring people together. And there's almost nothing I like more than making people laugh without even using a shared language, just with physical humor, having someone crack up that doesn't even speak English, and I'm not even talking. I'm just relying on my body temple. You know, that's pretty amazing.
Yes, yes. And you are very physical in your stage work. And so people can really get that. You're full of energy. It's a ton of fun. And yeah. And I get how important humor is because in my work, it's a really helping primarily women, but, anybody who struggles with it, get through the tough situations of life. And humor is a really important part of it, because if somebody is challenging you in a way that feels unsafe, you can, make them wrong. You can blame them and shame them, or just shut down and run away, or, whatever it is that is really common to do. But if you can stand up, fully in your own person, your own power that each of us is aware of, then and turn the situation around, kind of like a yes and kind of mind trick, and put them in a situation where there's a bit of fun and they've got an out, so you haven't blamed them or shamed them. That is so powerful in turning somebody who maybe meant you ill, or at least was trying to do the one up, one down thing. I'm talking about, for women, people who, I've had guys, who would do the A-frame hug, and then their hand would slip down and, double pat on the derriere.
Oof.
And, we can feel, as women, we can, and I bet you probably experienced that back in the day. We can feel like that's unsafe and we don't know what to do.
Of course.
And turning it into something where, you can do the whole pivot thing and redirect them to the matter at hand with something that is a bit of fun, makes all the difference.
Indeed.
Yeah. So let me see. When did you start? When you were in school and became the class clown, I can imagine that had overall good benefits, but there were probably some tight situations that sometimes a sense of humor isn't always a great thing in the moment. How did you handle those things when you made it? Because so often we can blame ourselves for making a bad call and leave behind a really good tool just because it didn't work for us one time. How do you turn those kind of situations around?
Well, I was in trouble a fair amount growing up. I was often at the principal's office, but it was usually for playing too much. It wasn't around being mean or bad or defacing property or anything like that. It was usually I was too much for the teacher to contain, so they would just send me down to the office. But humor, like when you were just sharing that about two people finding the funny, when you find the funny in a loving way, and even bringing it to attention to an uncomfortable moment or situation, it brings a lightness to the situation.
It does.
So I think I have more of a history of leaving a trail of lightness than dark and doomsday stuff.
Very much so. Very much so. When you all watch Quinn's shows, I mean, you will just love the kind of lightness that he brings to situations that are just like, how did you handle that? And it's amazing. And we're here to tell you, you can handle tough stuff too, dear viewers and listeners. So give us I'm thinking about that show last night, and I'm thinking that there is something there that would be a great example or two. to kind of inject a bit of story in the middle of our time together. What do you say?
Sure, sure. Well, everybody that's tuned in, the show is called Hung Like a Seahorse. It's the companion piece to my international best-selling book, which is called Hung Like a Seahorse, the real-life transgender adventure of tragedy, comedy, and recovery. And I came to the stage really innocently. I knew I had a story in me from the get-go, and I'm working on my 4th solo show right now. I've done 3. I've done 2 as Kathleen, that's my birth name. And just a side note, a lot of trans people and gender nonconforming people, they call their birth name their dead name. So they don't ever want to hear it. I was Kathleen for 47 years. I've made peace with that. My first show, I've done 2 solo shows as Kathleen. The first one was called Learning to Stay, meaning learning to stay on the planet, not kill myself. I've dealt with suicidal ideation since the age of 11. Learning to stay in my body and not dissociate, because as a trauma survivor, I sure knew how to dissociate. And learning to stay with my feelings moment to moment, because no one taught me how to, but I was learning how to. The second show was called Kathleen Fontaine, The Man, the Mystery. And I thought that was a fun, catchy name, because even if people didn't know me, they'd be like, what's this show about? And that was a show about looking at the cultural gender divide as I see it, because I've studied it my whole life. Looking at my recovery from sex and love addiction, and then looking at my transgender identity. And then the next show, like I said, the companion piece to my book was called Hung Like a Seahorse, the show and tell version. And I mention all these because I will share with Dorothy, I want to pay and play it forward. So I don't charge for people to see my work. I put it out free content. I just want to touch people. I want to touch people's lives. So the miraculous thing about this, when I was getting ready to do Hung Like a Seahorse, the show, I was going through a moment of not a lot of funds. It was really kind of slim pickings financially. And the message I got from the universe, the God of my understanding, was work with what you have. Work with what you have. And that was the exact opposite of a core belief system that I was still healing, which is, you're not enough. You're not enough. You know, I'd heard that on and off my whole life from inside my head. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, okay, what do I have? Well, I had a bunch of old toys that it was a miracle I still had, having moved as many times, been evicted from homes. Guys, I'm in recovery from sex and love addiction, crack cocaine, alcohol, pills, pot, everything pretty much except gambling. So if you're out there struggling with anything, know it's possible. And like I said before, it's never too late. It's never too late to do anything. It's never too late to clean up your life, find hope, and get back in touch with why you're here. Because I truly believe if we're here on purpose. We aren't accidents. And so I got up and I was telling stories about some dolls I had from my childhood and my first ever little boy doll, and all kinds of stuff. And then I used really huge blown up photographs of my life. And so I'm not as much giving demo moments from the show as bringing in some of the tools from the show. And I just want to say, if you've never done photograph work, meaning go into your big bin of photos from your life, if you have them. Pick out photos of your life, because the reality is this. I'm 52 biologically, but I am every age before my current biological age. And there are times when I'm not in alignment with all of that, or we're not all inside myself feeling attended to, i.e. there'll be flares and I'm like, whoa, who's that little person? How old's that Quinn? And it's usually my 2-year-old toddler, really upset. Or my 4-year-old or my 11-year-old who was lighting fires at the time. Had so much anger and rage. I was lighting fires. Nothing ever happened, but oh my God. Yeah. So if you haven't already worked with photographs, get them out and start loving on every age of yourself, every aspect of yourself. And that's something people really love from the show. I bring all that stuff in, and it's just a lot of light-hearted moments. And I also visit some of the uncomfortable stuff, of course.
Yeah, and that is brilliant work to do. You know, I've clients right now that we are definitely working on that stuff, because when we're really little kids, you know, those experiences that aren't working for us, whether our parents meant well or not, we can interpret those things as. And I'll give you an example. Like I had this like 3-year-old like memory that has been seared into me all my life, and I just like last month cleaned it up. So, you know, I'm in my 60s, and you know, there in my world there's probably always another layer to find. And if you don't find any more layers, it may be your time to go. I don't know. Time will tell. But I'm hoping I have more on the other side of cleaning it all up. But this is something that had been niggling at the back of my head forever. And it was this childhood 3-year-old little Dorothy meaning that nobody loves me. And it came from a time when my parents, I was 3, I had a little brother who was 1. And it's a really tense time for my parents, and it felt dark. And I felt like a million miles were between me and my parents. I didn't feel that kind of warm connection that children rely upon, because we, not intellectually, but, at a core deep area of our existence, know that without our parents, we cannot live, we cannot exist. And it was just, and it stopped me from so many things. I had a great career, but there were lots of things that I didn't do because of that belief, and I cleaned it up a month ago.
That's huge. That's huge. Huge. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
So when you were growing up and having all of these challenges, you've gone back and done quite a lot of work, and I imagine that it's that same kind of layered approach. When something comes up, you can recognize it and thank it for showing up, because when it shows up, then you can do something about it. Is that kind of a part of your way of healing those parts?
Indeed, and I love your languaging. I do believe I say whatever's coming up to be revealed is coming up to be healed. So the choice is mine. This is a gift. It might not feel like it. It might be a gift wrapped in sandpaper, but it's a gift. So
it is.
Am I going to unwrap it? Am I going to be with it? And just to get current, I've been here on quarantine in my hometown with my mom in Virginia. I've been here 10 weeks. This is the longest I've been with her clean and sober. This is the longest I've been here as Quinn since my transition. And at first I was feeling trapped. I was doing a little kicking and screaming internally. My trauma was kicking up, right? And I think globally we were in, and maybe still are in, a low-grade trauma response to the pandemic, to not having control, to not knowing the truth of what's happening, with so many unknowns. But I was able to flip the script and really see and embrace what a gift. The timing of this pre-planned trip. My mom had a stroke. I was going to be here, but this all happened while I was here.
Right.
I'm not thousands of miles away. And
which would be worse.
Yes. Dorothy, the healing that's happened with my mom and myself, it's been beyond anything I even knew needed to happen. And it's just been organic and sweet and just so sweet. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just so thrilled to hear that, because they're, even when we don't get to make that peace with our parents, and maybe they're gone already, they've passed away, then there's still ways to clean up those things, to make that peace in your own heart, even when they're gone. But it's so much better to do it before.
Indeed.
Yeah. So good for you. So let's kind of keep it simple on the pivot thing. You've done a huge pivot. Most people, my pivot, it feels like a little baby pivot.
But I love to say, and I think it's important to say and remind everybody, let's never compare. Comparison is a form of violence, even if it feels really low. It's a low form of violence. Sometimes it's not so small.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Your pivot is your pivot. And there's probably a million reasons you may have chosen not to pivot, right? But you did.
For a long time.
Right. But you chose to do it. So that's the win. That's what needs to be celebrated. Yeah, I've pivoted around getting clean and sober. I've pivoted around the gender. I've pivoted around saying yes to things that still scare me career-wise. And my biggest pivot right now, and I love the word pivot. I've always known the word, but last weekend I did a Lisa Nichols conference and was just blown away. And one of my bigger takeaways was, it's time to pivot. It's time for me to pivot. And I've been playing small still. I can go be really big on stage and then I'll go hide. Because even being clean and sober, I would be the life of the party and then go to sleep for almost 6 weeks. No joke, because of depression.
Oh,
Clean and sober and just hiding. So learning to show up every day, be consistent, be as consistent as I can be.
yeah.
Making peace with the fact that every now and then I do need to hide in bed one day. I'm still clean and sober. No one got hurt. That's okay. If that's the best you can do, Quinn, that's okay.
That's okay.
But my pivot right now is to really look to coaches like yourself, people that are, whether it be 10 steps ahead of me, 20, 40, 1,000, people that are going to help me notch up. I'm ready to notch up, right? And so I'm saying yes to that. And I'm stepping into some things that scare me. And yet my whole body goes, it's time. It's time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. And when your whole body says that it's time, you can get that whole body sensation, that tingle, that pulling you forward into the future your soul has for you. And, as a scientist, I never thought I'd be saying words like this, but it's true.
It is true. Well, I love that you just said that, because we're at a time, I really believe, where science and spirituality are going to be proving each other as we move into this paradigm of love, as we move into a new age of Aquarius, as we are the change agents, the healers, light workers, and we're here to be a part of that. We're ushering in something really scary, and it's being birthed now.
Yes.
I'm not a mom, but I know moms, and I know, what it means to birth something. It's messy. It's scary.
It is.
And it's beautiful.
Indeed, indeed. So if you could tell our listeners kind of the best steps from your experience to really pivot so that they can survive through this challenging time. There are so many people who, they've lost jobs, they've lost income, they're doing everything they can just to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. And it's hard when you're, kind of stuck on the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy to see those things that are really at the next level or 3 or 5 up. So what do you think is a really good thing to do when people are really in that struggle place right now?
I hear you loud and clear, because I've been struggling as well. There was a moment of real fear for me, thinking I was going to lose my live workspace in Santa Fe, because I teach classes out of that space, and all of a sudden I can't teach at the level I was. So I've had to ask for help. So I set up a GoFundMe with no shame. I got to heal any shame that kicked up around that. It's like, no, I need help. And one lesson I need to learn about life is asking for help is okay. So if you need help, work through any shame you might have around why you're not letting yourself ask for help, whatever it means. Ask for help if you need it. Also, I think it's so imperative for all of us to find what helps us change our frequency, change our vibration, up level, whether it be music, dancing, whether it be just listening to inspirational speakers, walking, move your body, but find things that speak to your heart, that speak right to your heart. It's not the chatter, it's not the numbers, it's something that just resonates with you, soul to soul. We have to feed our souls right now more than ever. I also think it's so important to look at our lives and go, I'm pretty simple right now. Things have simplified. We've had to simplify. We've been sent to our rooms, so to speak. Mama Earth is mad. She sent us to our rooms to think about what we're doing. Microcosm, macrocosm. So we can do that. But before we go outside our doors and think on the big picture, bring it inside. What am I doing that's working and not working in my life? It's really time for all of us to say, you know what? I'm going to pivot. I was playing small. I'm going to pivot. I'm in this relationship and I've known from the beginning that it's not right. I still love this person. I outgrew them a long time ago. There is no shame or blame in that. It's time for all of us to get real and to know that, and I'm not saying I wake up every day excited to be here or full of energy. Some days I do. And I would love it if it was every day. I don't know if that's going to happen this lifetime. So it doesn't matter. I get up and I have more purpose. Find your purpose, find your connection, and be of service to other people. Get outside of yourself and go serve someone else. So even if you're struggling, call 3 people a day that you know are doing worse than you. Not for a hierarchy, by no means, but just to be of service, to check in on your fellow humanoids.
Exactly. And I have been doing that very thing. And it is amazing how much better I feel when I'm helping other people.
It's true.
And so
It's a
I've
basic.
I've seen these posts on Facebook for people who are in a tough situation. It's like, I will gift you this session. Let's get you so that you can see your way forward, so
Yeah.
that the dark clouds can part for you, and it makes all the difference in the world. It just thrills my heart.
Yes. Yes. And so often we're uplifted when we're serving someone else
Mhm.
without that being the reason we're doing it. But it's a basic tenet of recovery is service. Get outside of yourself and go serve.
Yes.
Go serve, move energy, get out of your own head. For many of us, this is the nightmare. This is where the chatter happens. This is where
I don't know what you're talking about. I never had that going on. Never.
for years, Dorothy, no matter what time I woke up, my brain would instantly go, "You're late." And even if it was 3 a.m., and I'd be like, I don't work at Dunkin' Donuts, nor do I own a dairy farm. I am not late. And having to reprogram my brain and my body to know I'm right on time.
Yes.
Because as a trauma survivor, now thriver, I'm still having to learn what it means to differentiate between I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and I'm relaxed.
Yes.
I still don't fully have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm giving myself the grace to speak truth about it, and also be gentle as I work my way towards understanding that more.
Yes. And I remember that transition as well. When I was in my 20s, I would work like crazy all day long and fall into bed at night, exhausted and out like that. And so I didn't have those transitionary ways of being that are really important for a life well lived.
For years, I love what you just said, and just real quick, for years, I didn't think I deserved to go to bed, to go to sleep, until I was bone tired. And to this day, I don't know where that belief system came from, because my family doesn't operate that way.
Mm-hmm.
That was really me judging myself and basing my worth on productivity and being a human doing versus a human being.
Yes, yes. And I was definitely in that place, and it came for me from this core belief that thankfully I've cleaned up of worthlessness.
Yep.
And worthlessness will do that to a body. It's no fun, but it will make you highly productive. And there are better ways to be highly productive.
Indeed.
And take care of yourself.
So many people are saying you got to slow down to speed up, and that's actually true.
Oh, that is so true. And for about 10 years ago, I was a part of the wonderful dance community here in North Texas, and I was dancing Milonguero tango, and that's the first place that I ever heard the dance version of that, which is slow to be quick. And it does make a huge difference, because the moves that you make are in the dance context, are more elegant, and they're more connected, and
more control.
You're not trying to power through it, which is the opposite of what a milonguero is all about.
Fascinating. Truly.
Oh, it's a sublime dance. I'm ready to go back. But coronavirus will have to go away first.
Yes.
So once people have done their pivot, what tips do you have about how to keep that, build the new habits going forward, to keep them in their new zone that's really working for them better and better?
Some of the most basic things I tell my coaching clients, and right now I'm working with kids. I've got a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old and a couple older teens, which is, the universe is sending me little ones, which is amazing. Is every night before you go to sleep, count your wins. Count at least 3 wins. And if you can keep going, keep going. Mm-hmm. The reason being, so you're not taking any negativity into your dream space. You're not ruminating about all the things you didn't get to. Or the belaboring the point of what you need to do tomorrow. No, count your wins for the day. Look over your day. Say, wow, I made that phone call that I've been avoiding for 2 months and it went well. I showed up here. I was of service. I met my mom. We had a real conversation. Whatever it is, count your wins, W-I-N-S. The other thing would be get an accountability partner. Get a prayer partner if you pray. Have someone that you're doing that with. Have a morning meditation and prayer session that you devise of your own need and want and form. Have a prayer partner that you pray with once a week, something like that. Have an accountability partner. Create your own team. Teams can be built without any money. Lots of people want teams. You can create teams. It's a trade. It's an instant win-win.
Mm-hmm.
So start to build your team, then start to dream. Do that vision board you've been putting off. Get ready to truly manifest, knowing that some of the most powerful words on our planet are I am. What are you putting after that? For years, I am a loser. No. And then if any of that stuff creeps up, you shoo it away. I literally say, you don't get free rent space anymore. No.
We're done with that.
Yeah. If I catch myself saying something out loud that's negative, I'll go cancel, cancel, cancel. That is not my message to the universe. No. Mm-hmm. So all those kind of simple tools, and don't overwhelm yourself. Get a structure that seems doable. Create days in your calendar that are balanced and loving. And then celebrate all the micro wins, all the little wins towards the short-term goals, towards the long-term goals, and make peace with, like often I'll go to sleep and I'm like, the best I could do, like I said earlier, the best I did today was I showed up, I stayed clean and sober, I didn't hurt myself or anybody else with my words or anything. That was a good day. Today, that's all I could do. And that's huge.
And that is huge.
Yeah.
That is huge when it's a day that presents some kind of challenge that in a past version of ourselves would have knocked us out or taken us like way wide of the mark. Yeah. Then being able to stay solid in the new you, that is wonderful and such a gift.
It's huge. And as often as you can, go to the mirror and look into your own eyes and say, I see you. I acknowledge your path. I honor your path. I support you. I love you. Like learning to reparent myself has been huge. And it's no harm, no foul of my own parents, but most souls don't get everything they need from their parents. My job as a soul is to reparent my soul. So I'll go to the mirror and I say, man, look at you. Look at you. You're showing up, buddy. Huge.
That's right. And I'll tell you, sometimes people wish for perfect parents. And one of my good friends grew up with this family, and the mom and dad had this wonderful marriage, and they had 3 kids. They were all great kids and have done well. But the parents had this. Now this is just the meaning that each of those 3 kids independently made. They all looked at how wonderful, they each looked at how wonderful their parents' marriage was, how they just found the way to work through their any challenges in life and just be tremendously in love with one another. And you would think that all 3 of those kids would grow up to be highly functional people, and they were really good at their work and their careers and such as that. But this is the number of them who ever got married again. 0 ever got married. And it's because each and every one of them had looked at their parents and as little kids, and the meaning that they made from that was that I could never live up to my parents. Wow. Little children make meaning. When we're little, we make meaning out of things and sometimes it's useful and sometimes it's not. And none of them ever married.
Interesting.
It is. So you don't have to have mean parents to have some kind of belief lurking in your in those childhood stories that doesn't serve you. It's always a good day to start cleaning that up. Yeah. Would you say?
I would.
Well, this has just been fantastic, Quinn. Thank you so much. How can people hear more about you, learn more about your work? You are just such an inspiration.
Thank you so much. They can check me out on Facebook, Quinn Alexander Fontaine, or they can check me out online. My website is quinnfontaine.com. And hopefully, Dorothy, if you'd be so kind as to list my shows and people, pay it forward. I'm here to serve and help uplift, inspire, and more than anything, help other people hook back into life.
I will put them in the show notes. How about that?
I'd love it. And I love you, and thank you for answering the call to do the work you're doing on the planet. It's amazing.
And you too. It is just absolutely wonderful. God made a whole variety of us on the planet, and when we are all stepping up into our best, we're doing our best and at our happiest. And I hope that each and every one of our listeners is there, knowing full well that life is imperfect and you might have a little more to go. I know I do.
I know I do. Can I offer up my little version of namaste?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, so my version of namaste is this. Bebaste. My inner baby sees your inner baby and all is truly well. Bebaste.
Namaste. I love it. This is great. Yeah, Quinn, this has been fantastic. And you all look for the next episode when it drops the Tuesday after this. And it's just an honor to have you here, Quinn. Thanks so much.
Dorothy, thank you so much.
Hold on, before you go anywhere, I want to make sure you know how much I appreciate your listening ear on the SuccessibleSHE podcast. And as such, I want you to know that I don't only want to make a difference here to you on the podcast weekly, but actually I want to be in there with you in your business, in your life, every single day, helping you overcome the things that other people can shock you with, so you can avoid shocked response syndrome and transform from stewing, shouting, shrinking, or shunning those people who don't respect or appreciate you, those situations that get in your way and even stop you, so that instead you'll be standing up for yourself with confidence, respect, and fun, and drive the results you want and honestly that you deserve. So I want to invite you to our free SuccessibleSHE community of practice for you, the woman who knows there's more for you in your business, in your personal life, and in your social life. It's an invite-only free online community of high-level women achievers, and this is where you can get ongoing trainings and interactions with me, where you can learn and grow with like-minded influencers and thought leaders, share best practices, and of course, get monthly micro trainings and book recommendations from me and my team. So our members range from women who own and lead businesses, professional women, to women who lead in your community, family, and movements. We would so benefit from having you, and we know you will get so much value out of this group as well, especially if you really appreciate what I bring you on the show. So if you do, head on over to dorothykuhn.com/community. That's where you'll have the opportunity to join the SuccessibleSHE community of practice. We host it on Facebook, so go to dorothykuhn.com/community, answer a couple of questions, and then request the invite. We'll check you out and can't wait for you to join us inside our group. Thank you for listening. Success will be yours.